Well, hey everybody, we're back today. This is Sam with Python Basics, and I think I titled this right as this is our 6th live stream. This is a complete beginner. This is us going through our first 100 videos of our playlist that's down in the description below. So if there's anything we've gone over that you want to be able to go back and laser focus, it's down in that playlist. So all right, let's just go ahead and pick up where we left off yesterday. And actually I realized that I've been explaining the odd, even, and have a different way of explaining it so we can actually begin to grasp a nested condition. So let's go back and touch on that for just a second. So all right. So here's our prime. So okay. No, I don't want that. All right. So is let's just go odd even. Def odd even. Taking a num. So I've kind of changed this a little bit, and I realized that I had completely forgotten. I knew it wasn't the way that I had been, but I was looking at the notes of videos, the episodes 1 through 100. So because there's going to be times where you're going to have, especially when we look at leap years. That's a little bit of foreshadowing. But let's say I want to discuss, what we're going to look at is a nested condition. So you have one condition that's met, and then inside that you have two. So let's just go ahead and look at that. So you could do this one of two ways. You could test if, how about we look at this? If num equals 0, then return 0, then else, then, so we've captured and we've solved our problem right in the middle. So then in our else, we can go the other way. So then if num greater than 0, return positive, and then we have everything else. Return negative. Boom. That is a perfect nested condition right here. So you have 3 scenarios. We grab 0 in the middle, and then everything else, but then we can go positive and then everything else. So I realized that we did not do a nested condition yet, and then I did not use the technique that I had kind of, again, been using over the years. So all right, let's just go ahead, and I said we'd pick back up on our find and our dad example, our string for dad. So let's go ahead and pull that up. So if you're joining us today, thanks for being here. If you are completely new, this is a new experiment. We are doing live streams 3 times a week on top of our regular videos in the series. And the series we're working on right now is stock data. And I'm having a hard time moving myself off of that, because I think I've shared that's the main thing I use, other than teaching and moving on. That's the main thing that I use. So, and it's my 2 loves. I've been in the stock market for a very, very, very long time, and then when I learned about Python and I've merged the 2 of these together, that's that. So, and also these live streams are a recap a bundle, however you want to think about it, of all of the playlist of the first 100 episodes in the playlist that's down in the description below. So let's jump back with where is it? All right, our dad problem. So here it was, and we were looking at the help on string.find. All right, so this is important in our second example. We're going to actually do this two separate ways. We're going to do it one really simple in a for loop, and then we are going to do it and we're going to wrap it in a function. So I want you to think about that term before we get going. So here we are. We got this right here. So what find does, so again, we're going to do it with we're going to do it control with a for loop, and then we'll jump in. So let's just go ahead and do this. So one, we need to have a counter, right? Because we're wanting to count how many strings, I don't know, how many strings of dad are there? Excuse me, DAD, to be really explicit. And that's actually one of the, and if you are super new with Python, you guys may not have ever seen, oh my goodness, I can't think of it. The implicit, explicit, oh my goodness. So here's another module that is the Zen of Python. Here we go. These are the rules that you should abide by. And you just type import this and it pulls it up. Beauty is better than ugly. Explicit is better than implicit. So don't, like this, don't kind of go through and suggest what you might be doing. Do this very rigidly. I want to split this up. I got 3 conditions. Boom. I'm going to nail out the center one. Then everything else. Then bam, I'm going to separate everything that side. Then again, boom. Now this is literally everything else that is left. Left. Oh wow, and it goes to the left for negative. Never actually said that before. Air should never pass silently. That is one thing when you have an exception. Don't try to grab them all. But yes, these are the written. Flat is better than nested. So sometimes you can. Complex is better than complicated. So just wanted to share that. If again, I know we have a lot of super new people to Python, and I wanted to make sure that you guys have seen and heard of that. The Zen of Python. So all right, so we're counting our dads, our string DAD, excuse me. And let me pull up the notes. So we said first we were going to do this with a for loop. Now, also, so we're going to need to figure out how to slice this. Let me get this over here so we can see it. So how do we get dad? So we're going to have our starting point. So then we also need an intermediary variable. Actually, for the for loop, we don't, because we're going to use our range function. So let's see. DAD. Yep, still sitting there. So DAD. For us right now, we need an intermediary. So DAD, then slice this at I through, how long is dad? 3 characters, right? So through I plus 3. So let's go through this. So what does our slicing do? Has a starting point and then an ending point. And it goes 3 characters. So 0, and the length of DAD is, of course, 3. So starting point, Python doesn't care that that's a variable. I know I've said that a couple other times, but if you're just joining us today, I understand that we need to repeat that. So that is 0, 1, 2, 3. Included, excluded. 0, 1, 2. That's why that needs to be 3, because it's the length. So we count 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I use range and for len, I don't think I've done this yet. So what am I doing here? For I in range 10, print I. Just like our slicing. Start, stop, step. When it's 1, it's just the stop. So starts at 0, always starts at 0 unless you give it a start. And those are 10 numbers because we start at 0. So 1 through 9 is 9 plus 0, 10 numbers. So now, here's my intermediary variable. So just like this. So if I were to change I to 1, well, let's be clean and clear because this is what we're about to do. So if I increment I just moved I over 1. I just made I larger by 1. So now I run this and I get, I needs to be 0. Then I'm going to increment it by, now I call this again. So I get dad, and I is 0. So then I increment by 1. Then I call this again. And I shifted it over 1 index because I made I 1. So now that you kind of see this, now I'm going to use my loop, and we're going to print dad I plus 3. All right, and I don't need this anymore. So what am I doing? Each time through, I is getting larger, and it's moving on. So now let's just go ahead and print this, and you'll see what this is doing over here in a second. Oops. For I in, there we go. When I is 0, I get dad. Then when index is 1, I get ADA. Then I get dad. Then I get add. Then I get DD. So here we go. This is what's happening. DAD, ADA, DAD, ADD, DDA. So I'm looking at 3, an increment, a length of 3, and I'm slicing through this. So now I want to actually test if this is equal to dad. I want to increment my count of counting of dad by 1. Then when I get done outside of my loop, because if I were to put it here, it would do this every time. If I were to do it here, it would do this. Actually, let's look at order of operation. Print count. Let's look at this. And did not get rid of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, that is only printing out count every time count is increased because it's inside our condition. Now let's back this out one more. So now this is going to count every time I is incremented because it's inside my for loop. So I should get some repeat numbers. 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Now if I back this out one more, I will only get count one time when this whole script is executed. Let's just go ahead and do that and look at this right now. Boom. So that is one of, because I don't think I've explicitly said that about our indentation. So now we need to wrap this in a function, which is something that now that you can do. You can create a function and we can go from here. So how would we do that? What is one of the first, what's the keyword? Somebody put in comments. What's the keyword that we need to have to start to build a function? Anybody? All right. It's def. So we're gonna comment all this out, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. Not that one. All right. So we're gonna call this def substring, and we're going to take two arguments. First the string, then the substring we're looking for. And so, all right, we're actually going to utilize the find. So we don't need to then search the length and go about it. So let's look back what find does. And we're going to utilize these rules. So find, or str.find, if I can spell. All right, let's pull this over. Return the lowest. So we look at this. We're going to replace lowest and think first. Return the first index in the string where the substring is found. And if it's not found, it's going to return -1. So we need to handle this. And then we're going to look at how to format something. We're going to use string formatting. We'll do fstring later, but sometimes I like to show string formatting and then bring in fstring so you can see the logic of how it works, so you can kind of grasp them. Now, I'm a big fan of count, place, multiple assignment, especially if it is something simple as 0 and 0. So we've seen this before, multiple assignment on one line, right? So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do first. We're going to do count and place. 0, 0. And what this is saying is, so find is going to look at it's going to find the lowest first, the first index. So we're going to need to have a number, because if we start there, because it won't find any overlapping. Count won't. Remember what count does? Help str.count. You might say, well, why aren't we using count? Well, because it returns number of non-overlapping. We have DAD. This would not, count would not grab this. Now, regular expressions, and we'll deal with that later, could do this much cleaner and much neater. But we're going to use what we have, so we can just call this anytime we want to. So, now what do we learn about our while loop? That it does something over and over and over again until exhausted. So while s.find, then sub, and place. So to remind you what we're doing right here. So we're using our S, so we're looking inside S, that's why we stay consistent. Then this is what we're going to be looking for. This is the substring we're going to be looking for. and the beginning place is 0. So that's where we're starting. And you might say, well, when we looked over here, we didn't need to. Well, in the first go round, I remember when I was first figuring this out and trying to figure this out, I was like, well, you don't need it the first time, but then you need it the second time. Okay, so you need it every single time, just the first one is 0, right? And then I went, oh, okay. So that is the thing about programming is, what are the rules? You may originally think, so the way that I said that was very important. You don't need it the first time because it's already it starts at the beginning, so it's already 0. Okay, so I'm going to explicitly set that to 0. Place 0. So that's what we're doing here. So now, then how does find work? Returns the first index, returns the lowest index, the first index. So we need to do 2 things right here. First, we're going to find out where it is. If it's there, it's going to give us a place. So while, let's set this, because I want you to think about this, because we're going to be using reassign. We're going to be reassigning a variable place over and over again each time this goes through. So while x less than 5, print x, then increase x by 1. Oops. And that should be less than. There we go. So it printed it, and then see, you could do an experiment with seeing the order of operations here. How many times will this come out? And that's also very important. So when you're having a problem, and the one that I love to explain is, if you think about like a maze where you go in and you always go to the right first, then you check in front of you, then you check to the left. Those are you want to lay out a program that is going to do the same thing the same way every single time, so then you can just move through and you know what it's going to solve. Boom, boom, straight, down, up, turn around, come back up. So if you're going through columns and you step forward, turn right, go all the way down, turn around, come all the way up, then turn right again, you just had a repeatability to go through a maze and check 3 columns. That is how and what loops are powerful for. How can you set this up? How can you repeat it? What are the instructions that can be repeated? Then boom, you put it in a loop and you've solved the problem. That is probably the most important lesson that I've found to tell young people. What are the instructions that you can repeat them, and then move on. Because the 2 things that a human being struggles with is doing the same task over and over and over again and remembering things. Well, guess what? Wasn't directly invented to do this. It was almost just a goof. The personal computer was a bunch of lights, and then there was somebody figured out how to get stuff to happen on it. But computers can remember anything you tell it, and they're awesome at doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it will never make a mistake. All right, so here we go. So find, return the lowest index. So this is going and checking to make sure this is not negative, correct? Because the first time through, if it's the very first instance, it's going to be index 0. So it needs to be greater than 0. So that's why it's greater than or equal to 0. So then it's just s.find. Let me assign it, actually. s.find. Then we're going to place the Then we're going to give sub, and then we're going to check the place. Then we're going to go up by 1. You might say, well, why in the world are you going up by 1? Because we need to move over just 1. Because you don't want to test the exact index, because we just found it. So it's going to be 0. So it's setting at 0, goes through, checks 0. So then wherever that is, right here, then I want to come over and check now that one. So I want my place, if I just found it, I want to check my place where it was found over by 1, my A. Now, so I just found it, right? It was found, it was greater than 0, so it was found. And it was found at index 0. So now I want to increment my count. Count, increment by 1. So now when I get done, we're going to use return. Actually, let's use print first so we can see this. So now here is string formatting. Happens, times. So before you saw me typing format, then sub, and count. So what am I doing here? Now how did I know something was wrong? Because, one, let me show you this. So I got this weird indentation. It's not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be right here. And then also, if you look very carefully, this is going to gray out. Python script is very intuitive. So watch really carefully right here. I'm going to close out this parentheses, and it's going to gray out all of this. Watching? All right. So now I'm going to do one more parentheses. It's going to gray out my entire print function. Boom. That's a double check to realize that, hey, you've grabbed everything. All right, cool. So now I'm going to do sub string. Then I'm going to pass it dad, which is already here in memory. I got it up here in my script. And then I want to look for dad. And now let's look over here and what string format did. So I showed you this. We got name equals SAM. So then I call name, and then I want to put these together. Hi, name. So I put a little space here because I hit my keyboard, so that's a character. So it's a placeholder. If you press a key, it goes into memory. So and it's a ASCII. It has a value. So this is weird. And then you have to remember: am I in a string? Am I out of string? Am I in quotation marks? Well, here's string formatting. And I know you're probably screaming at the screen, why aren't you using F string? Well, because there are new people here who I want to show them. I've found much greater success explaining string formatting and then moving on to F string. It's just easier to grasp. Now, so here are my brackets, curly brackets. Say it's on the same key as the square brackets. So curly brackets, whatever I want so I wanted the substring, then the substring happens this many times. So then I close this string out, put dot format, and then I pass in the variables, and they have to be equal to each other, the same number of arguments. So I got 2 curly brackets and I got 2 variables. So now I'm going to call this, boom, lo and behold, dad happens 4 times, occurs, happens. So there we are. All right, so let's keep moving. All right. So we talked about, here is a perfect one, factors, divisors. And then we'll move into the nth prime, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for today. So a divisor. Let's think about that. What is a divisor? A number that divides evenly into a value. So 2 is a divisor of 4 and 8, and 8 has a divisor of 4, 2, and 1. All right. And 8. All right. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Let's close this out. Comment that. And if you're new here, thanks for joining us. This is a new little experiment that I've been doing of these live streams. This is a recap of the first 100 episodes of the videos on this channel, and it has the description down below. So if you see something and you want to go back and look at it and you're not sure where it was in this video, you can go down to that playlist and then find the video in there. All of these are just a recap and a review of all of those. So let's look at divisor. So we just talked about, let's do 21. So 21 divisor is 3. Then 21, a divisor is 7. And because we know this, because this is our modulo operator, and it returns any remainder, or it returns the remainder of this operation. So let's go and build. We're just going to build a function. Factors x and y. Close that out. So return. So how would we do this? Return is. Have we looked at doc strings yet? So how do we want to do this? Is y find if y is a divisor of x. 1, 2, 3. Close this out. X modulo y. Now, I remember when I was first doing this, so I went and we did this the long way. If this is equal to 0, return true, else return false. But we learned just the other day that we can put this all on one line. So now, factors. Let's check. Now, also, what did we learn? What did we learn the other day? And if I pass these in and I return these, nothing happens, right? So I need to move these and wrap them in a print function. So we're going to check if 2 is a divisor of 8, and check if 7 is a divisor of 21, and check if 3 is a divisor of 10, or factors. And then what we'll do is we are going to look and see how in the world we could find all of the factors. So this is a warm-up to how can you find the factors of an integer. All right, so let's run this. Oop. Helps if you, I guess in the video, I guess I use factor Oh yes, it is factor because I'm just testing. Actually, let's be more accurate, because we're testing to see if y is a factor, a divisor of these. So there we go. True, true, false. So we know 2 goes in evenly to 8, 7 goes in evenly to 21, and 3 does not go in evenly to 10. And we can just come over here and glance, and we have a remainder of 1. So now we need to look at how in the world, because I'm going to show you ugly way, and then I'm going to show you good way to find all factors. Def factors of x. Again, this is to show you, full disclosure, of the really unclean, non-Pythonic way, range 2, because I already know 1 is a divisor. So then I'm using the range function, going through, I'm grabbing x, going up by 1 because I need to include that. Then if x divided by I equals 0, then print, oops, no, we're doing that next. Then I'm going to take my list, append it by I, and then print D. And then we can change that to return here in a little bit. And then factors of 8. Let's run this, and I get 2, 4, 8. And we could change this to, let's go there, get rid of the 2. Oops. Oh, should be 1. Okay, actually, why'd that happen? Because if I gave it 1 number, it's automatically going to start at 0, and 0 is going to throw out an error. So that needs to be, there you go. That needed to be 1, not 2. So 1, 2, 4, 8. So let's pass in what? 64. So what do we get? Oh, here we go. Here's some factors of 64. What is 102? All right, cool. Now let's clean this up. This is pretty ugly. So what we're gonna do is we're going to use list comprehension. So let's do a little recap of what list comprehension is. It is a way on one line to, not only one is it a little bit readable, it is time efficient inside Python. And we can look at that scenario later, that it's just faster. The way that it is designed, the way that it utilizes, and the architecture of the memory and the processing just happens faster. So here we go. We're going to do an empty list, L. So for I in range 10, if I modulo 2 equals 0, so if this is even, L dot append I, so then L is 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now let's do this on one line. L equals, let's do our brackets, for I in range 10. I recommend you do it this way first. Now, we want I to have, so you go back to the beginning. This is what I recommend. This is what I found is best practice in explaining this. So you do your loop, you do your header. Then at the beginning of it, if you just want it to go in, and then actually I'll show you next how to do any sort of computation, you do that up there. So that goes at the beginning, I just being left alone. I for I in range, boom. We put this, actually let's just stop there. So then I have, boom, there's my list. So now if I want a condition, if I divisible by 2, modulo 2, so if 2 goes into, I don't like that. If 2 goes in evenly, so boom, here's my list comprehension. Let's come back up here. So if I would just for giggles, so then if I wanted to have everything going in from I, and I wanted it multiplied by 2, if I wanted all the even numbers, and I know that there's going to be 2 of them, call L. So then it goes in, and it's then I multiply by 2. So 0 times 2 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. So I have 10 numbers. Len of L is 10. And they're all, because this was range 0 through 10, so it's 1 through 9, including 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so then I multiplied them. So now, well, gee whiz, we could do this all on one line. Ooh, sorry guys, I have not looked at any. You've only got access. I was wondering if there was a way to create a function that takes 4 arguments and puts them in another function. Takes the 4. Okay. Let me recap that. All right. Wondering if there's a way to create a function that takes in. Well, yes, that you can have nested functions. Yeah, absolutely. I guess what is the scenario that you'd like? Because one, you want to make sure you understand the problem. So if you're just, what ifs are great, but that's going backwards. What you want to do is you want to have a problem, and how small can you make it that you can explain it to a 5-year-old, and that's the computer. That's the software. That's Python. So if you can make the rules simple and as clean as day, because Python only has a set of rules. So all right, let's see. Is there a way to create a function? Yes, you can have 4 functions, or 4 arguments, and then what can happen is actually, yeah, my brain's kind of swirling. Just actually answered that kind of question on, but yes, it's a nested function. Sometimes there might be a better scenario, but yeah, if I better understood what the goal is, then I definitely would be able to. But yes, you can pass on. And I guess my first question would be is why wouldn't we just take those arguments and then put it in that function? But yes, there is a way to pass information back and forth, and we'll get to it, but it's called global. But where you have information, a variable that can go in and out, it's called scope. You have global, global, local, non-local. So yeah, in that scenario, what's kind of coming to mind now is you have a nested function with a function inside of that, and it moves back and forth, and that would be there would be a non-local variable. That's what comes to mind first right now. So I don't know how long that's been sitting in chat. Sorry I didn't click over and look at that. But yes, if you were able to give me a more specific of what we're wanting to do. I'm trying to think of the example that I was able to help somebody with. I'll go back and look at the notes. I try to keep all the notes that whenever I posted anything. Oh, and it's fine you're late. That's what's so cool about YouTube. You can go back and rewatch any of this. So, all right, let's keep moving. I really want to try to get to this one all the way done. So, all right. So now we're going to do factors, and we're going to do this all on one line. So def factors of x, and we're just going to print, we're going to do d I for I in range now. This is kind of cool. I want to show you guys a different way to look at this. So how can we go backwards? Have we done that? You guys got any ideas? So if I wanted to put this out and I wanted the largest numbers, so how could I do this if I wanted 9 to come out first? For I in range, I wanted 9 to come out first. 9. Then I wanted, so if I wanted 0 to come out, would I do 0? Okay. And I want these to be in reverse. So you guys think about if that's right or not. So then print I. So now really I want 10 through 1. Actually, I want 10 through 0. So what would this need to be? So first this needs to be 10. So if I want this to be 0 and I'm going in reverse, I'm stepping by ones, but I'm going negative. I'm going in reverse. So this needs to be -1, right? So I want 0, so it needs to be up to and including -1. So here we go. 10 all the way down to 0. Like if you're counting down and you're going through. So all right, let's do this right here. Let's do x 0, because I don't want to include 0, and I'm going -1. If x I equals, boom, print d. Actually, that is for, that is for when I'm doing, I'm sorry, I've lost track of my notes. Don't look at that. We'll do that next. Let's look at our nth prime number. Sorry about that. I lost track and looked at these notes in a very long time. So now, what we've been doing is we looked at, let's come back up here and copy this. Prime is prime. So we're checking right here is if a number is prime. So we're going to utilize this to check all the numbers, because I don't know which ones are prime, but I have a tool right here that can do that for us. So now it is literally this simple, and this is how you can use actually, let's comment this out. I'm going to show you this first. This is how we use, I remember this was in one of the first little things I read. Def new line, print blank line. All right. So then I call new line, right? I get a blank line. So then I call def 3 lines, print, or excuse me, new line, copy, And then, so what happens when 3 lines? Okay, so now def 9 lines. You see where I'm going with this? This is an awesome example. And get rid of that. Wow. Sorry, guys. This is horrible. Alright, so save this, run this. Then I get 9 lines. So what did I do? I take a function. Python does not care about this. It just knows, it goes, hey, I've heard of this. It comes up here, looks at it. Okay, you want me to do this. So then Python comes down here. Okay, put this in. Hey, I know this. Comes up here, does this. Oh yeah, that's up here to do this. Boom. 9 lines right here. Very, very handy. Wonderful example. Guess what? We're going to use that same technique right here. All right, let's see if we can get this wrapped up in 7 minutes. I think we can do it. All right. Whoa. This is horrible typing today. Sorry, guys. Nth prime. Now, what in the world is nth prime? To the nth degree. Whatever number you want to pass it. I want to find the 5th prime number. 5/5. So, okay, so it does not work for first and second, but that's why it's nth. It's the only two. It's the only two that are super special. Oh, I guess and third. First, second, third, and then everything else is. All right. It took me until I was like 25 to notice that. All right. So what you're going to be entering here is the number. You're not testing a number. You're checking the, hey, I want the 5th prime number. So you're going to set this up. The Python is going to need to go through. So one, you're going to check all the numbers. So you're going to have to start it. Well, we know 1 isn't. And if we think really hard, I gave you a little hint. 2 is the only even prime number. And then all of them are odd. So we got a lot we got to think about there. So we already know what the first one is. First one's 2. Then we're going to need to start at 3 and then go up by 2 all the way through. Okay, so let's just get started. All right, so let's start setting some variables. So we're going to start at 3 because we know that we know the first one is 2. First one 2. So let's start setting this up. Wow. Prime 2 if x equals 1 return I got this. Return 2. All right, so we're cheating here a little bit. If you want the first prime number, I'm just going to spit out 2 because I know that. And then we're going to start counting up. All right, so then while prime less than x, because we're counting. All right, so this is our nth prime number. This is the count quantity of prime numbers. Quantity, place. So 2, 3, setting this second prime number. All right, print while prime is less than, while the prime number is less than this one, we're going to be adding 2 to it every single time, right? Because we know that it's going to be an odd, so we're not going to have to check every number. We can skip a little bit. We can help the processor along. Then we're going to utilize our is prime So then if the number, whoa, I don't know why I can't type today, but I apologize profusely. So if you're new here, thanks for joining us. This is our new experiment of our streams, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays at 3 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time or UTC. And right now we're working on the first 100 videos. The link is down in the playlist, down in the description below. So now we're utilizing our previous is prime, boom, up here. So then if this is true, we're then going to add increment to our prime number. Then let's get our order of operation down. Then once we're done, once this is going to jump out of our while loop, we're going to return num. How many, what number is it? So there we go. We will test this and look at this next Tuesday. But thank you guys so much for being here. I haven't checked. Well, good afternoon to you, Joe. Ooh, you're attracted? Okay. Yeah, you guys are being awesome. But yeah, Austin, if you get me, if you drop it down in the comments after what you're kind of wanting to do with those two functions and the 4 arguments, I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. But as always, guys, please make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell. I know your guys' time is very valuable, so thank you for spending it here with us, and just have really hit some really cool milestones, and I just want to tell you guys thank you very much. A few of you have been around since the beginning. I cannot believe that it's over 3 years now that we've been doing this, but I just want to tell you guys thank you. I really appreciate it. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.